Okay, welcome everyone. We are so glad that you are here for Digital Citizenship Week. Happy Digital Citizenship Week. We have been celebrating at CDE all week long, and hopefully you are as well. And what I'd love to know, we're really talking about opening the dialogue about AI today, and so I would love to hear in the chat if you could let us know, you can introduce yourself and let us know what is your one of your first memories with engaging with AI. I know it's I mean for me it's like a part of my life. I use it every day, but I was thinking about, there's a lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of the general public that haven't used AI yet, or maybe they don't realize they're using it, right? So when is it let us know maybe in the chat. Maybe I'll ask my colleague Christina. Do you recall one of your first times utilizing Gen AI? Do
Oh
you know what
my gosh, yes, and I don't remember what the topic was now, but I actually used one of our, uh, popular search engines, let's put it that way,
I'm-
um, and it generated a response for me using a particular generative AI platform that this particular search engine uses. And I read through it and I thought, ooh, this is pretty nifty. And it gave options. So it wasn't just like, here's the one answer that we're providing you. But if you don't like this, we have this. And then behind door number three, we have this. Oh, but wait, we have more. So that was kind of groovy. And um, and then I thought, well, let me see if I could play around some more. So then I went down a whole rabbit hole to further explore, um, because it was fun. That said, there were some typos that I found, and then there were some discrepancies in some of the synthesis or analysis that it was providing me. So I did find myself needing to go back and think, I need to closely examine this and critically review what's been put out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see there are some people joining us on Facebook, watching on Facebook as well. So in the comments, the same prompt goes out to you. If you remember one of your first memories engaging with AI, feel free to join in on the comments there if you'd like and participate. Kate, I see, I love this question that you asked ChatGPT when you first started. What can ChatGPT do? Just ask it. I love it.
I totally did, and it's so funny, I went back to the beginning, like, I could see my first query, and I was like, "Good on me." Like, I went straight for the heart of it, like, "What can you do for me?"
I love it. I love it. I know that for myself, is someone that everyone on this call right now, all of our hosts know, Ed Campos actually showed me ChatGPT first. And he says, "You've got to check this out." And yeah, I was pretty mind blown. Oh, nice. So Joe, you made a children's book, one
You,
of your first experiences?
I was scrolling the Twitter when it was called Twitter, and I saw a woman named Amar who said he had ChatGPT help him write a children's book, used Midjourney to create the images, and then used Amazon Kindle to create an e-published book, and then was able to print the book. And within 72 hours, he had it at his house. And I said to myself, "Oh my goodness, the amount of money we spend on books for my two little girls." I want to see if I can do this. And so I went into ChatGPT and asked it to write a children's book about we ended up calling it Andy Asparagus, You're in Trouble. And I had my girls read it and they laughed so hard that I'm like, oh my goodness, if this thing could make my girls laugh, what else can it do? So I didn't even use it for education. I use it for entertainment. And that's actually one of the activities I have teachers do, administrators do first, is
Oh,
create
nice.
a children's book to help them learn to prompt. It's fantastic. It's amazing.
And
That's
Joe,
great.
I actually remember you creating songs.
Yes,
Right.
we use
That was pretty cool.
we do that for, when I go into high schools, we have the students take their notes and turn the notes into a song, and then they can listen to their notes while they're on the bus or going home. I know Notebook LM has gone viral for creating podcasts with notes, but I think kids really love the catchy song where the chorus really, teaches them what they need to know. It's great. It's fantastic. It's
I
fantastic.
love it. I love it. That's great. See a lot of familiar faces in the chat. Welcome to all of you. A couple new faces as well. And of course, we've got some people watching live on the Facebook as well. And we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves, the CDE team here representing CDE. Really, what we're focusing on today is, like I'd said, how might districts begin conversations regarding AI ethical use policies? So that's our question today that we have for you. My name is Catherine Goyette. People call me Kat. And I am the computer science coordinator for California Department of Education. And I am joined with my amazing colleague, Dr. Christina Mattis. Do you want to introduce yourself, Christina?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Digital Citizenship Week, the continuation of. I am proud to represent the Department of Education on educational technology and digital equity broadband coordination efforts. So if you've got any questions around E-rate, digital equity, broadband, ISPs, or internet service providers, anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for being here.
Excellent. Awesome. So yeah, this is really we're kind of talking about how do we even begin this conversation? How can districts and schools go about this? We have some couple of great presenters who actually you already heard from. They already chimed in, which is excellent. But where did this all come from? This webinar series is based on our California AI guidance, which is called Learning with AI, Learning About AI. You will receive a copy of all of the slides or a link to all of the slides within the next couple of days. All registrants will receive that via email. So don't worry if you're watching on Facebook and this is too small, or if you are listening in your car, you will receive all that. But this is the link to the AI guidance. Also, the recordings of previous webinars are now on that website as well. So definitely something that you can check out. Feel free to use that for your own learning, for professional development, for your teachers, whatever you need. There's also a resource kit that was released in the spring. So I encourage you to check that out if you'd like. It actually does have a couple case studies of a district and a county office and how they have approached AI and developing policies. And in regards to safety and guidelines and things that is in the guidance that we care about and want our educators and our community to think about. And I know that Joe and Kate are going to touch on a lot of these things, but we really believe that AI should enhance and not replace critical thinking, creativity, and human connection. That is a big component of making sure that that human intelligence, that humanity portion of who we are is at the forefront at all times. This is an interesting one involving students in the discussions. And I know Joe's going to talk a bit about that, the importance of making sure students are involved in these discussions. You at the classroom level, these ethical use policies can be flexible. They don't have to be the same for every single assignment. We also believe it's really important, especially Digital Citizenship Week, to talk about making sure that our students are aware of character education, that they know how to we can combat some cyberbullying and deepfakes and things like that. And lastly, something we actually talked about at our digital citizenship lunch conversation was social media. What are the impacts of social media? Now, understandably, we are not saying that teachers and educators should be using social media in assignments in their classroom, but we do know that this is in our students' lives. And so we want to teach them about how these AI algorithms work in the social media so that they can be safe. But that may have sounded like a lot. And you may be thinking, okay, can you just slow down a bit and tell me how to start this conversation? And so we are going to start with a great friend and colleague of mine, Kate Tolna. I'm so excited that Kate is here. I've known her for, I don't know, many
Many
years.
moons.
Yes, back when she was at when you were at Santa Clara County
Yeah.
Office of Ed, I think,
Yeah.
quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And so has done a lot of work in the ed tech space and working with educators with AI. And I do want to let everyone know the chat is open, so feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we will make sure that those are addressed as well. Kate, I'll go ahead and allow you to introduce yourself, and then I'll stop sharing and you can start sharing.
Awesome. Hi, so many familiar faces as well as new ones. It's so nice to be here and to be able to leverage the CDE platform to help people start these conversations if they haven't been started yet. And we were talking before as a group of facilitators, like just like how often we could take for granted the fact that, oh, these AI conversations are happening all over the place. But the reality is we are not the norm. And if you're signing up for this, you're likely not the norm either. So I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that there's a lot of support that's needed in this space. And today I am hoping to at least provide some resources or thoughts what people can take away to either continue the conversations or help start them. So I'm gonna go ahead and share. All right. All good? Yeah, okay,
Yes, we can see it.
perfect. Okay, so I want to frame today. I want us to make sure that we're starting from a familiar place because AI, even just the term artificial intelligence can be off-putting to many of us, and it could be, you know, riddled with just all sorts of emotions. But I specifically built this because I wanted us to acknowledge places we've been before and that this isn't the first time we've been in the space of great innovation. So thinking about from acceptable use to ethical AI, I really want to empower schools and school leaders to think about what their next steps are going to be in this space. So the essential question to think about is how can we prepare ourselves and our community to design ethical AI policies? And so before we dive in, I just want to do a pulse check and have people put in the chat, plot yourself on this emoji graph. Like, how do you feel when you hear the term ethical AI? And Kat and Joe, I'm calling on both of you to contribute out loud. So be ready. Scott's 2A. Oh, a very hard smile. We have Howard with 1A looking cheerful. We have Steve 1B. Is that sweating, Steve? Is that right? Kat, where do you fall on this?
Well, I wanted to share from Facebook. We have a couple happy
Oh,
faces, like full on, just like, yeah, let's do it. So
I love it.
that's cool. I would say, oh gosh, where am I? I'm kind of like a 3D, like,
Okay.
hey, some of you, yeah, you're doing did I say the wrong one? 3D? Yeah.
3D, smirky face.
Yeah. Yeah, not quite 3. Sometimes I'm like, you still haven't done that yet? Let me help you. But it's like, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're building, right? Oh, I see
Building.
like a celebration emoji in the
I
chat.
do too. Joe, what about you? Where do you plot yourself?
I'm laughing over here because Kat, I picked the exact same one.
Oh
Deep,
my gosh. What for
because
what reason?
you know, it's like, what is your definition of ethical? What is your definition of use?
Okay.
Like for me, it's like, let me see what you say first before we dive into it. You know,
Totally fair.
yeah, that's my look right there.
I love
I
it.
also saw, oh, I'm sorry, I was going to
No,
share
no, no, go back.
2 more from the Facebook
Yeah.
post here. There was one that someone had a 1G.
1G. Okay.
And then we also had one that kind of like kind of hard to see, maybe like a 3C.
3C. Oh, a blushy face. Okay. And what's so funny is even though I'm calling it a blushy face, that doesn't mean you're seeing a blushy face, right? I mean, that's kind of the fun of emojis. I do think it's important though, you know, as we head into this conversation that can be really heavy, it's important for us to do that pulse check on ourselves, right? Like, what are we bringing to this conversation as instructional leaders in the space of ethics? And then ethical AI, right? Like you can almost break that up into 2 different questions. So, like I said at the beginning, I wanted to start from a familiar place. And I began my journey in educational technology leadership back around 2010, 2011. And this was the era of a lot of innovation, feeling like it was coming fast. And so there were lots of feelings around innovation. There was lots of trying to align the Web 2.0 tools to what we already had in place, the frameworks we were using. And I literally had this Bloom's taxonomy image here, like on my wall, and laminated it. It was right there. And then as I learned new web tools, I would Velcro it on in those different areas. Like I was tethered to that because I was the classroom teacher that had the honor of managing the laptop cart. And so if any of you had that opportunity, and I say opportunity, to manage the hot mess that was that laptop cart, please put into the chat an exclamation point because I need to know who my fellow masochists are. It was a lift, right? And it was because we were saying yes to innovation, all of a sudden we became point people for managing the innovation. And then, oh, let's do a bring your own device program. Kate, why don't you write something up for that? And I was like, I really feel like we need to make this more legitimate. And that's when we started to develop our acceptable use policies. And I felt like the burden of being like a first follower or a lone nut was shared, right? Like our school had arrived at a point of, acknowledging that this was bigger than like one or two classrooms that we needed to get on board, systemically. Well, if we fast forward to 2024, I find myself trying to draw some parallels, and I've said this before in other conversations. Like, this is not our first rodeo, everybody. Like, we've done Web 2.0, we've rolled out the Chromebooks, like, we've managed Google Apps for Education, now Google Workspace. But here's the thing, this is different. The AI is coming at a near nuclear level, right? It is flying at us and our students in a way that I don't believe Web 2.0 tools did. I felt like there was more of a slow release or a release, use, go, reflect, share. It didn't feel so big and so fast. And I have this gif of not Scary Farm, and not because it's Halloween, but because I believe that part of our challenge in 2024 is that this innovation, this AI innovation, is really not built for the K-12 market in mind. And so it's like you arrive at Knott's Berry Farm and you're ready to play, and then it goes dark and you realize, oh my God, I am in Knott's Scary Farm and I am not prepared for the surprises and the runs and the screams and all the things that are new around me, right? But we do have some things in place. And we have AUPs. That became a norm, right? We have conversations around data privacy. We also have to acknowledge that there's still a lot of feelings around innovation. So we're also dealing with that social emotional component. But we're holding tech companies accountable for privacy and data security in very important ways. And not just individual schools or districts, but as a state, we are holding the bar high for our educational leaders and our educational technology companies. And as a refresher, right, these are laws that are now in place that are part of our conversations as technology leaders. Are your tools, is your AI COPPA compliant? Is it FERPA compliant, specifically in California? Is it SOPIPA compliant? So it's a good reminder that we are actually building on the good things that we already struggled through. But before we dive into those policies, I want to just take the time to remind everybody about the importance of collaboration and establishing clear goals as a team. Because if we dive into policy making too quickly without doing all the due diligence of getting your team on board and really diving deep into the needs of your community, it could appear more reactive and it could have less tooth than we might want it to. Could also cause some problems. So here are a few considerations that I want to put in the room. So as you're considering moving in this direction, hopefully we are moving quickly in that direction if you haven't already, make sure that you're pausing and you're asking you and your leadership team, what's the purpose of our new policy? Who will this new policy serve, right? Are you making a policy for student use? Are you making a policy for teacher use? Why do those need to look different? Which leads to, what impact do we want this policy to have on our school community? And what tech policies do we already have in place that we could leverage so that we're not starting from scratch? Then finally, who needs to be included in these conversations? Are we creating space at the table for all of our community members, including students, including community members, including board members, caregivers, teachers, staff, all the people? So when I mentioned that little bit about is a policy for students and teachers, and I'm going to dive deeper into that because I think it's important for us to strategize. What do your teachers need to feel more safe and comfortable with AI? And to dive deeply into that, different than, are your students ready to engage with AI? And if so, in what way? If we're diving into the policies without asking these crucial without asking these crucial questions, that was hard. We run the risk of jumping over some really important ahas that could do some great shaping of policies. And so for our teachers, they need leadership, right? They need our leaders, you school leaders, to be using AI openly and transparently, to be moving in this space with them. It is not something that is being done to them. It is something that we are doing as a society. It's happening. So how can you as school leaders, instructional leaders, be modeling that for your staff? I really believe teachers need direction. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had and sessions I've hosted where people are coming and they're just like, tell me what to do. Like, what's my policy? What should this California the National Ed Tech group, like, tell us what we need to do. So there's a hunger for it. There's a desire for it. But at the same time, if we just grab that direction without thinking about the impact on our community and just taking it and running, again, not the point, but can we look outside for models of these policies that are in place? There's a lot of people that are sharing some of their models really openly. And teachers need tools and resources including time. So I wanted to elevate one resource that I am particularly drawn to. And this comes out of ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education. And they're doing a lot of work in the space of AI. But specifically what I wanted to elevate were their AI lesson plans. And so these are all free, downloadable PDF collections of lesson plans that teachers in those different grade spans or with different focuses can like literally host with their students tomorrow or next week once they feel comfortable. So these are researched, these are vetted, these are written by professionals in the space, and they come out of ISTE, so you know that there's a reliability factor you can rely on. Really, really important resources to be aware of. Okay, so for our students, I believe our students need these three things. They need lots, but let's just unpack these three. First, they need teachers that are informed. If we simply leverage AI, we being teachers, if teachers are leveraging AI as a gotcha tool or as a replacement for themselves without thinking about the larger impact or the transparency issues or those ethical pieces, that is not helping anybody. So how can we make sure that our teachers are getting the support and the information they need? We also need to trust our students. And I'll get into that in a minute, but there does come a point in time where we as the instructional leaders can create safe spaces for exploration and risk taking, assuming we've had conversations that have set them up to be trustworthy and then giving them the space to show what they can do. And they need their data and information to be private. So I'll just quickly elevate this roadmap that I've put together and you'll get as a resource. But it's a conversation starter for TK through 12th grade teachers and leaders to start thinking critically about the role that AI might play on a full scope and sequence. So we don't yet have that in place, though legislation is moving in that direction very quickly. But whether or not students should be using this, or if they're developmentally ready to use the AI, needs to be a crucial part of this conversation rather than just what's the policy around it. Okay. So, as a reminder, this is the time as you're preparing to write your policies, this is the time for you to evaluate and audit your current resources. So what does that mean? If you are using web tools already within your ecosystem, just check and see, do they have any AI features that you need to be aware of and you need to monitor? And then use it yourself. Hop in there. Like if Kahoot now has an AI feature to help develop games, give it a shot and host it at a staff meeting or share it out with your teachers and say, what do you think about this? But I highly encourage you to go into the spaces your teachers already are and start there. Also, this is a plug for just pausing long enough to find and read the privacy policy for the tool that you want to use. Privacy policies are usually located in the bottom footer or under a tab at the top. They should be very visible on these tools. Read the policy, but better yet, use AI to help you read the policy. I have put together an AI and EDU compliance advisor, a custom chatbot that is full of resources and a knowledge base that is reliable and filled with all the compliance tools you could think of, so that you can copy and paste a privacy policy directly in there and start the conversation as a team. And continue to audit the tools to make sure they are still compliant. Just because a tool was compliant before AI doesn't mean that their new AI integrated into it makes it still FERPA, COPA, and SOPIPA compliant. So just eyes wide open on that to make sure you're continuing the journey. I want to elevate a few resources that Kat has already pulled out. The learning with AI, learning about AI. Oh my gosh, y'all, there's so much on this website. And I certainly hope that if you haven't already been there, you check that out. Also, California Educators Together, which is a free resource that the state offers, has a beautiful collection from AI for CA that is full of lesson plans and guidance and case studies and so many things to get you and your team aware of what's happening in the space. This is a lot of links, so you'll get this in the follow-up. But I wanted to make sure, again, I am not a lawyer. I am not offering legal advice, but there are people who can do that for you. If you're sitting here going, Kate, this all sounds just fantastic, but I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the space in my world to make this happen. There are partners in our ecosystem that could potentially help you with that. And then finally, I'll just end on this note. We know AI is happening. We know that educators and students need guidance and direction, but at no point in time should anybody be developing these policies alone. So I encourage you, bring all of the voices to the table. Bring your IT leaders, bring your district leaders, your instructional leaders, your teachers. Come together as a community to figure out what this needs to look like for your community. And on that note, that's it. There's my contact info. I'm so glad to get a chance to share that all with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. I so appreciate all of those all that insight that you provided. I love the developmental path roadmap, I think you called it.
Mhm.
Yesterday, an incredible principal, Kip Glazer, showed something similar, and I think
Uh-huh.
that in regards to just thinking about what are kids ready for at certain stages with certain
Mhm.
grade spans, and so something I haven't seen a lot of yet, and so grateful that you're bringing that idea to our attention and being so gracious as to share that resource as well. So absolutely love that. I also when you were talking a bit about how AI is just changing everything and there's all these things to think about. There were some comments in the chat about concerns from parents about AI robots replacing labor, right? So there's these impacts of AI that we need to talk about as well,
Yeah.
which those ISTE resources, by the way, that you shared do very well. So definitely want to thank you for that. There's so Dr. Christina Mattis asked a question that I'd love to hear your thoughts on, and Joe as well. Um, she says, yes, Kate, collaboration is key. What advice is there to engage and motivate leadership to get on board? So I'll start with you, Kate. What would you advise as a way to get leadership on board with starting this conversation?
Well, a point of clarification, is that from the perspective of a classroom teacher trying to get their leadership on board, or would it be like leaders getting leaders on board?
Okay, so Steve Bailey's saying, I'm thinking boards, like
Yeah.
school boards and superintendents.
I honestly think it comes down to, you can't have these conversations or even host the space for these conversations unless there is an understanding of what's being talked about. So I think it starts with building the case, pointing out how it's all around us, providing vocabulary, giving them an opportunity to learn what this is all about so that they can make educated decisions about it. um, I believe in the power of community. And so I think elevating student voices, perhaps capturing student voices and sharing those voices with the board, with the superintendents, sharing the caregiver voice, whether that's sound bites or having them actually come to meetings, but having them paint the picture that we all know is real, which is it's in our world, it's all around us. And it's so hard for leaders to deny when when their constituents are right in front of them. So I think that that would be a through line to get that conversation started.
Excellent, excellent. And Joe, any thoughts from you regarding the question of getting those leaders on board, those board members, those superintendents?
Yeah, 100%. I would say definitely, having a board presentation, even a 5-minute one of why AI is here to stay, why it's affecting our students now. And if we don't want it to affect our students in a negative way, we have to get in front of it. So presenting to the board. I would also say giving a family night, a parent night, and inviting the leadership, inviting the area soups, inviting the superintendent to listen to how we're talking to the parents. What I have seen when that happens, you get complete buy-in by the leadership and they want to start doing some leadership sessions. So shout out to San Gabriel. That's one of the things that we did over there. And it was fantastic. Shout out to Orcutt Union School District. They're doing that same thing. And shout out to Learn for Life, because that is how we are starting those conversations, by getting in front of the board, getting in front of the parents, and then getting in front of the leadership. That is what I've seen as be a successful model in getting buy-in with your community.
Excellent. And so yeah, so thank you for that, Joe. And Joe is also a colleague I've known for many years, and have had the great pleasure of working with in many ed tech spaces as well. And so so excited that Joe, you are here to share your expertise in this area and your experience working at lots of different, gosh, ed tech industry, so to speak, as well as K-12 education in various levels. And so excited you're here. I know we both of us, you kind of spearheaded some work with a district that I had the opportunity to work with a bit as well. They're presenting tomorrow, by the way. You can hear their story. But Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then you can go ahead and share your slides, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on just opening the dialogue and getting this started.
Yeah, whenever we talk about policy, we start getting, it's almost like a turtle going to a shell, like, oh, I don't want to touch policy. But, it's best practices. That's basically what it is. How can we start talking about best practices of use within our school community? And that's what I want to chat with you about today. And so, yeah, my background I have a lot of stuff, but I'm an educator first and foremost. And my joy this year is I've been getting into the kindergarten classes talking about digital citizenship and AI. We've been creating class songs and with AI, and then turning them into actual songs where we sing and dance. It's been so amazing to see the power of AI transform learning into a personalized experience. And that is the key, my friends, that we are looking for. So I want to share with you a few different things that I have found to be powerful when talking about best practices, policy, and ethical use. And I want to talk about ethical use not only at school, but at home, because AI can become the great equalizer in student learning at home. How many times do our students come home and showcase something to parents who are like, I haven't touched that since high school. I have no idea what you're doing. AI can help be that tutor at home if we know how to ask the AI to be the tutor at home. So I want to talk a little bit today about ethical use of AI at school, at home, with AI literacy, creating norms, prompt techniques, and examples and best practices and how we do that. I want to touch on something what Kate was talking about in the quickness of the adoption of this technology. We are living in what Thomas L. Freeman calls a Promethean moment. This is a moment in human history where something has changed, something that has changed the trajectory of humanity in the way that we communicate, collaborate, create, critically think, and are just what it means to be human. And in the past, we have had many Promethean moments, right? We've had the telegraph, the telephone, the television, the Teletubbies. All these changed what humanity means, right? And what this means is we are on a trajectory to change the way we work and play and learn and educate. But the difference is everything else that I talked about was a slow roll. It took a long time to get hardware into the classroom. It took a long time to get the ecosystem, the network, to have that many devices on it at once. It allowed time for the educator to prepare and plan for the technological evolution. When AI landed in our laps, well, it's been around for a very long time. Don't get me wrong, but when it landed in the laps of us, just the regular person, in 2020, November of 2022, it was available to everybody with every device. As long as you had a cell phone and an internet connection, it was available and ready to use. It is actually the fastest adopted technology in the history of the internet, besides Threads, but I don't count that. Okay, because that was connected to Facebook. Sorry, Facebook listeners. But ChatGPT was the fastest adopted device to reach 1 million users within 5 days. And it's gone on to billions of users. And I say ChatGPT because when the normal person is polled and you ask for what is your favorite generative AI tool, or do you use generative AI, they don't know what you're talking about. But when you say ChatGPT, oh, yes, I've used that. It goes to show you that a lot of us are in the space of knowing the difference between ChatGPT and generative AI. The normal population is not. So we are at a point in education. This is the last year that we can decide, are we as educational institutions going to be disrupted by AI in our classrooms, or are we going to discover the power behind this tool? And we will only be disrupted if we continue to put our heads in the sand or push it till later, right? The true power in this is when we get together as a community and discover how we can ethically use these tools to empower students, to empower teachers, and to propel education to where it can possibly go with these tools now available to us. But we have to acknowledge the fear. Kate touched on this a little bit. And since it is Halloween season, I want to touch on fear a little bit. We have to acknowledge people are scared of this. And you know what? We think because ChatGPT is here and people have started using it, the fear would go down. The actual reality is it's the opposite. Fear in our communities are going up. And are you, as a teacher, as a leader, talking to your community that this is not something to be fearful of? Or your parents fearful of this because they're reading it in various different news outlets? We need to get in front of this to showcase, listen, if we don't touch this, if we don't talk about it, there is something to be feared. But have no fear, us educators are going to be there to train properly on how to use these tools for our students. So first off, before we can even talk about ethics, let's talk about facts, people. Students are using this. They are. But if you're not showing them how to use it, guess who is? The TikTok and the Gram. Okay? The TikTok and the Gram are teaching your students, and they're teaching them how to use it to save time and do their work for them. That is unethical. But if we're not stepping in front of it, how are the students to know that? Right? We have to get in front of this. So we have to acknowledge the students are using this. So students need to be trained in proper ethical AI use. And if they're not being trained on that, we can't demonize them when they're using it improperly. Okay, that's number one. Next, because of everything Kate talked about COPA, about FERPA, right? About all the acronyms. Teachers need to be trained on these tools, because if they start using these and student identifiable information begins to be leaked, who's the one that's to be blamed? Is it the teacher or the district who is not training them how to properly use these tools? Administrators need to be trained so that when they are purchasing tools and these tools are promising them the world with AI, to ensure that AI is not making the decisions because they are biased. And we can't let these tools make decisions that are biased without having a human look at those results. And then parents, letting the parents know how these tools can propel their students at home and can be the tutor they can't afford at home. But how do they use these tools? How do they ask these tools to do these works? That's our job, to train them. So we can't talk about ethics until we bring AI out of the shadows and acknowledge they are being used. And statistics show this, right? This poll that happened in May of this year, this is very recent, shows that 49% of our educators are using these tools at least once a week. Have they been trained? 49% of our students are using these tools at least once a week. Are they trained? And 52% of our parents are using these tools. Are they trained to use them in conjunction with their students' learning, or are they using them to get their work done? Right? We need to make sure that we have these trainings in place. But I know CDE guidance is we need to put proper professional development into place. But in this poll earlier this year, now this was before the 24-25 school year. Yes, this was back, I believe, in March of this year. 100 educators were polled. 70% said they haven't even received any training of AI on their classroom. That is on us. We need to make those numbers go down. We need to have training with our teachers because the training needs to be told. These tools are not to save you time, educators. Saving time is a byproduct of using these tools. These tools are meant to be a collaborator in crafting personalized learning experience for the students that are in front of you today. That is what these are for. But if they're just using them to create lesson plans with just a very superficial prompt, I'm scared of what it means to be an educator if that's how we're using these tools. These tools are to enhance our professionalism, not to lower what it means to be a teacher. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are showcasing to administrators, to teachers, to students, to parents, that AI should be a collaborator in your learning, not the sole creator of your content. And if that's what you're using it for, we have to take a look in the mirror for that. At the very least, we need to acknowledge these 8 things with our school communities. Acknowledge that generative AI outputs can be wrong. It's getting better, right? But the corpus, which is the data set, is getting larger every day. The larger the corpus, the more opportunity for hallucinations, which are incorrect responses, can happen. And when teachers tell me this is going to replace me, it is not going to replace you. It actually enhances you because the outputs that come out, they need to be reviewed thoroughly. So the students need to have a higher grasp of the content you are teaching them, not less. Okay, so we should be empowered by that. Number 2, these outputs that are created are based on humanistic writings throughout history. And we all know humans are inherently biased. And so the responses can be inherently biased as well. Now, I do have to acknowledge a lot of the tools that are put into place have put up a lot of guardrails to filter out those biases, but they're still there. And we need to acknowledge when they do appear so our students understand that biases are part of the world and it is part of us to push back against them. Number 3, when using these tools, they are free, you're the product. So be very careful about what you are putting into them. That is a fact we need to tell our students. Teachers that are listening understand these tools are meant for kids or adults 18 years or older, 13 years or older with parent permission. Modeling should be happening below that 13-year level. But we need to make sure teachers understand that we cannot be putting in all of our student data and asking it to analyze that data when it has the student's first name, last name, and school ID number. We can't be doing that. If teachers are and they haven't been trained, who's at fault? That's what I need to ask us. Who's at fault when we let that happen? And please, to do your taxes for you. I had friends saying, oh, I use ChatGPT to do my taxes. No, don't do that. That's too much information. So never let these tools do all the work for you. We should always add what I call a SOW, an SOW, a statement of original work. What are you bringing to the table first before the AI is helping you? If all you're doing is having it create, we're not doing the work. We got to bring a SOW to the table, a statement of original work. Number 5, Always use follow-up prompts. The first output is never good. Okay. I always say, imagine you hired somebody to write that for you and you paid them $3,000. Now you are not happy. I promise you, you're not happy with that first output. Always include follow-ups. Have something that I'm gonna call it AI cubed. I'll talk about it later. That's a reason for using these tools. You have to have a reason to approach them. Unless you're just having fun, if you're doing it for your professional experience, you have to have a reason to approach these tools. And it shouldn't be to save me time. No matter how well they write, they are not sentient. We have to reiterate that to our students. We cannot have them becoming friends with their chatbot. And number 8, always say please. And I say a couple reasons. One, studies have shown when you end your prompt with please, it gives you a better output. But also, when these AIs take over the world, at least you can point to them and say, I was nice to you when you were a little baby chatbot. Okay. Always say please when using these tools. Now, when using these tools as a collaborator, right, we have to make sure we're putting limits on them, right? And I always love to give the example of an e-bike. Now, my father-in-law, he lives in Michigan, and we visited him not this July, but the previous July in 23, and he had an e-bike, and he says people make fun of him for riding this e-bike. He is an older gentleman. He is an ex-PD officer who was on the motorcade. So he was on a motorcycle for his hips and his knees are completely trashed. Michigan has lots of hills and he can't get over some of them. And he says, I pedal as much as I can. But when I'm trying to pedal up a hill and I need to get over the hill, my options are either turning around and just giving up or revving my e-bike until I can get over that hill. And once I'm over that hill, I continue on my way. And he said that to me. I'm like, that's AI. I went to my computer as soon as I got back and I wrote that down. I go, this is AI. This is how students need to use it. This is how teachers need to use it because the struggle is still a part of learning. I 100% agree with that statement. But is the struggle enough to get them to quit? Right? We don't want our kids quitting. So give them enough struggle, but not let them quit. That's where AI can come into play. Rev the AI engine to get them over the hump. Rev the AI engine to get them where we need to be. And that's where that purpose comes in. That's where AI cubed come in. Artificial intelligence, intentional inclusion. That means we're asking ourselves, why am I using AI in the first place? What am I going to ask it? What is the task I'm putting forth? How am I going to ask it? That means you need to have a carefully thought out prompt. I don't write my prompts on ChatGPT. I write my prompts in a Google Doc, because I need to sit there and think and worry about my prompt and adjust my prompt before I put it into my AI. And every plan has a beginning. And that is, why am I using this, right? AI cubed is very important. And teachers and administrators, look in the mirror, because we need to start deciding all the tools that are out there. Do they fall into microwave AI tools? Microwave AI tools, in my definition, are tools you put very little effort into, hit a button, and you get a lesson plan that you start using, right? Is that ethical? I'm asking that question because a lot of teachers are doing this. They're using microwave AI tools to produce things for them, and they push those out to their students. Ask yourself, would we be okay if students did that? If students used a tool to put very little information in and it produced a 5-paragraph essay for you out? If the answer is no, that's unethical, then why is it ethical for us to use these tools to produce work for us? I'm not demonizing you if you're doing that, but I'm saying look in the mirror before you say to a kid, that's unethical, if you're doing the same thing. I just mean we have to define what are ethics, and are ethics defined by, are you a teacher or a student? I don't think so. I think also part of what we need to do is start teaching that prompt engineering is a writing process. Prompt engineering is a craft. Prompt engineering is something we can do as English teachers to teach students how to write creative prompts to get the best outputs. Prompt engineering skills are becoming more important in career readiness. It used to be that businesses were hiring prompt engineers, a singular prompt engineer for their business. Now they're requiring people they're hiring to have prompt engineering skills, because the best user of AI is somebody who has the best understanding of the content, not somebody coming in from the outside. So an English teacher is going to be the best user of AI for English class. A science teacher is going to be the best user for science class, because they have the best grasp of the language they need to use to craft those prompts, right? Output review is also a skill. That is a great skill we can have our students do. You, the teacher, have it push out an output, send the output to the students and have them comb through it for inaccuracies, comb through it for biases. That is a skill. And that's something we can be teaching our students easily in our different classes. Prompt engineering is not the same as Googling. We were talking about earlier, Kat and Kate, how when teachers first looked at these tools, it was probably back in late 22 or early 23. The tools weren't that great yet, but they used a Google response, like, tell me this, and it gave them a horrible output. And they go, oh, these tools suck. They're not really good. No, it's because our prompts weren't very good. We didn't have a well thought out prompt. Prompt engineering is not a good Googler. Okay. And then finally, prompt engineering is a process in which students and parents need to understand how to ask for collaboration, how to ask for these things. So my good friends at Pace AI and I came up with this great graphic. And that is, when we're thinking about prompting, always clarify your prompt. Always make sure your prompt is clear, okay? And in what you are asking, verify the output that comes through that, and then use follow-up prompts to modify the output to meet your needs. So we call that clarify, verify, and modify when looking at prompt engineering. And with prompt engineering, there is no guidebook. There is no blueprint, because prompt engineering is different every time you approach a tool. It's always different. So there is room for a checklist. So I created this checklist that helps me go through my prompt to see if I've added enough ask. Did I ask it properly? Did I add enough context? For example, teachers, if you ask for a lesson plan, it's going to give you a lesson plan as if you are a teacher in secondary and have your students for 50 minutes. That's what it's going to give you. You have to give the context of, I have a block schedule. I only see my students 3 times a week. That is context the tool needs. Give it an exemplar. Give it an example. This is where your SOW, your statement of original work, comes in. Give it your rubric. Give it a previous lesson. Say you want it to follow the same flow. Give it something to follow. That is your exemplar. That is your work. If you are asking it to write a lesson plan with you, not for you, with you, tell it that it is an expert lesson designer for 10th grade English learning. Give it that persona. What it does is it narrows down the focus and the corpus of the data set to really hone in on the expertise portion of it, changing that persona. And the output, do you want it in paragraph form or bullet styles? And then tone or style, do you want it to be humorous? Do you want it to be serious? This is great for emails, but students are learning how to use this tone and style check mark for bad. They are saying, write me a 5-paragraph essay on this topic. Here's what my teacher asked. Please include a couple misspellings and only include vocabulary that a 10th grade student would use. That is the persona. That is the tone and style they're adding to it, which is getting past the perplexity detectors that a lot of people are using to catch kids using AI. There's nothing that can catch kids using AI. I'm sorry. It's not. Right. So how do we use this? How do we use these? Well, I just had a fantastic parent night with Orcutt Union School District. We had a parent night, and I walked through the parents on how to write prompts to turn these tools into tutors for their students. Right. And so what we did was we showed various levels of prompting. Right. My 10th grade English teacher is asking us to write a paper comparing the political structures of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Please work with me in a step-by-step manner to brainstorm possible ways to approach this assignment. It's not asking it to write it for them. It's asking it to be a coach, a tutor, a brainstormer to get them started, to get them over the hump, to rev the AI engine so they don't give up. Right? Then we start getting into more complex prompts. You are an expert math tutor, changing the persona. Specialized in explaining complex ideas in familiar ways. Now we know not to be too complex with that output. Please walk me through the steps, right? You will ask if I understand the first step or need more help. If I respond, I understand, you'll move on to step 2. That means it's a tutor. It's not going to give you an answer, right? These are ways that we are training our parents, training our students to use the AI as a collaborator. But if you're not talking about it, if the students are just learning from the ticks and the talks and the grams, they're going to learn to use it in unethical ways. And as we all know, once a student has a learned behavior, it's incredibly hard to get them off of that learned behavior, right? That's why I say this is the last year before disruption happens. This is the last year where we can be discoverers to put our students on the right path. Let's not keep AI in the dark. And let's not keep AI at, well, this is just going to be used for cheating. It is not. There are so many possibilities for us. And we cannot, as a school, create blanket bans. Oh, we're just going to ban it. That'll make the problem go away. No, it won't, because AI is everywhere. It is not going away. Students are using it. They need to know how to use it. We need to know that they are using it properly. AI norms must be created at the district level. We would call those policies. At the site level, based on that school community, because we all know that sites have different communities depending on where they are in the district. And AI can change, like Kat, like you said, the AI norms can change based on the goal of the lesson. They're not a blanket goal. For this lesson, we're learning this. So you can't use AI for this, but you can use AI for this. And we call that proper use of AI versus abuse of AI, right? These are conversations that happen. And you know what? If you don't explicitly label something as an abuse, but a student uses it as, you're like, oh, we might need to add this as an abuse. Talk about it as a class. Tell the kid you're not in trouble, but we are going to be adding this for the future. These norms need to be malleable right now. And you're going to find ways kids use AI that you're like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's a fantastic proper use. Can you show the rest of the class how you did that? Imagine how you're empowering a student on a tool that they thought was cheating, but it's actually a skill. And they get to teach that skill to their class. Imagine that empowerment. But the number one thing that I say, if you're using AI, acknowledge it. Students need to acknowledge it. So there needs to be a citation way that you, the teachers, you, the school, are saying we need to cite. How are we going to cite? Now, I know MLA has their citation index and APA does. I don't like them. Sorry. Okay. I like this. As a teacher, I need to know more. So I need to know right off the bat in the byline that AI was used. So right underneath written by, you tell me if you used AI right off the bat, so I'm not guessing. And throughout your paper, you need to make sure that you are leaving indications AI was used for that. And so what tool? So I say the citation page needs the tool, the prompt or chat link, because all these tools now allow you to post the chat link of what you did with the AI. That's a great thing to post. What was your purpose? This is that AI cubed. You have to have intentional inclusion. What was your purpose for using it? Why did you approach it? And it can't be to save time so you had more time to play Fortnite. That can't be your reason. Your SOW, your statement of original work. What did you bring to the table? What did you ask it to edit? What did you ask it to review? And then in conclusion, was it worth the time? And this is a forced review process I ask for my kids, right? They need to be able to say, like, you know what? I actually didn't need to use the AI this time. I could actually do this because it took me longer to write the citation page than I could have just done it easily myself, right? We need to make sure that reflection piece, that forced reflection, is a part of the process. But I know you're saying, but they're still going to cheat. Okay, listen, we need to have that conversation with the kids. Number one, have them provide supporting documents, all the research they did. The first draft. I love when students utilize draft history or version history and label their drafts in the same document, right? So you can go into your version history of any Google Doc and label that. I know we're running out of time. I'm finishing up. There's also great opportunities utilizing DraftBack or originality.ai. Originality.ai is a free tool, and I love it because it gives you a graph. And this graph, if you see a nice even slope, that means they typed themselves over time. If you see a step graph, that means they copied and pasted. And if there's no citations that they copied and pasted anything, that is a conversation. Plus, it gives you a video, just like DraftBack, of when that copy and pasting occurred. And you can see that. This is a conversation point. Hey, I have a conversation with you. I just saw this. Can you explain this to me? And if you're still worried about it, everybody, okay, Cami has a great feature. Cami's a great tool. Most people think it's just an annotation tool. Cami has a great feature. When you push an assignment out, you can eliminate copy and pasting. Students cannot copy and paste into the document whatsoever. So they have to type it. So if you're worried about them copying and pasting, push out an assignment via Cami and it works. So in conclusion, we need to train our students properly with integrity on abuses versus proper uses. Show our parents how to use these tools at home so they get that reinforcement at home that this is a tutor. It is not your person to do the work. Provide your teachers with effective AI PD. I'm sorry, but the days of they'll figure it out on their own, it's not going to fly with this. We need to provide that PD. Work with our community, our school, and our staff. That is our staff, our admin, our students, our parents to identify best practices at the district site and classroom level. Do not punish students without norms in place. And finally, just because your old practices work doesn't mean they're the best practices in the world of AI. Times they are a changing, and so do our approaches. And that, my friends, is how I look at ethical use of AI, best practices, use at home and within the classroom.
Thank you, Joe. Excellent. I love that all of these practical ideas because some of our to the point that we had the question earlier about how do we get our leaders on board. There are teachers, there are site leaders whose districts and boards maybe don't have ethical use policies yet, and both you, Joe, and Kate, addressed here's how you can approach this as a teacher. Here's how you can teach this to your students. And so ultimately we have to approach this from both ways, right? We have to approach it from the grassroots organic approach as well as from even the state level approach, right? And kind of because it's so big that we just have to start. We have to start the conversation, and these resources that you provided were excellent. Both of you, thank you so much. I do want to let everyone know if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. And also, you will be receiving the slides. Let me go ahead and share my slides again really quick. Thanks, Joe. Put a bit.ly in there. Is that to what's that bit.ly for?
That is an AI coach. If you're trying to figure out how to implement these ethical practices, talk to
Okay.
your students, talk to your parents, they can ask this chatbot all those questions, and it's right there for them.
Awesome, awesome. And Kate, you had that awesome custom chatbot that you shared as well. That I think, did you create that one as well?
I did, yeah. And I
Love it.
actually have a link to the knowledge base so that people can see the 20 documents that are in there. So they know what they're chatting
Awesome.
with.
Awesome. I did get a private message from someone that said I have to leave for another meeting, but please thank the speakers. I'm also seeing on the Facebook someone saying, Joe, can you come speak to my director? But again, the idea is that we need to start the conversations, even if it means we're starting the conversations with our students, or we're a school site principal and we're starting the conversations with our teachers, right? Lead wherever you are, right? Lead wherever you are with all of this. So thank you so much to all of you that are here, all of you that are watching the recording, all of you that are watching on Facebook. You will receive, if you registered for this webinar, you will receive links to the CDE AI resources that I mentioned, as well as links to the slides from today and a link. So thank you all. Please know there is another webinar tomorrow to celebrate Digital Citizenship Week, and that will be about, we will have a county office representative as well as a district talking about the process they took to actually create AI guidelines for districts. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check it out. Remember, if you can't make it, register, you'll get the video. No problem. Next month, we will continue our webinar series and we will talk about AI and its impacts, positive and negative, on mental health. So we will be talking about that in November. And you can connect with me. This is all my contact information, which will be on the information that'll go to you through email. And I want to thank you all for all that you do. And absolutely, thank you to Kate and Joe. Such a pleasure. I'm seeing lots of thank yous on Facebook as well. Thank you so much. So helpful. Thank you. Such a great, informative presentation. So thank you to both of you. And have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.